Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to Surfing Baseball with Ed Lynch. We are on social media, X formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all podcasting platforms. We especially ask that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Surfing Baseball with Ed Lynch. We're going to have some really cool guests continuing to come on the show, and you will only know about it if you follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And so with that, the star of the show, Ed Lynch. Ed, we're in the last month of the regular season, wrapping up here, getting close. If you had to pick I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but if you had to pick who has a chance to make a deep run and win the World Series today, who would that be?
Well, there's several very good teams out there, obviously, in the American League. Let's just talk about the National League. And my pick to click is a National League club. And, when I used to get questions from young executives when I was a general manager of the Chicago Cubs, and this is, over 25 years ago, I would always say, if you're going to have a weakness on your club, make sure it's not your bullpen, because your bullpen is going to be tested every night with the game on the line. And that's 30 years ago when guys used to go 7, 8, 9 innings. Now, when the average start is probably approaching below 5 innings, I would think, your bullpen has got to eat up a lot of innings. In a lot of cases, like four innings every night. And, when they're in the game, late in the game is on the line, obviously. You're starting to go out there, give up a couple in the first and maybe one in the third and pitch 5 innings, 3 runs. That's doable. I mean, you can come out of that and still be okay. But if your relievers are giving up 2 in the 7th and 1 in the 8th, you're probably going to lose that game. The team that I'm most impressed with right now is the San Diego Padres. I mean, they went out and made some significant moves at the deadline to improve their bullpen. I've been bragging on them, a lot the last week, telling people that I know that they're my pick to go deep in the playoffs and probably win it, because you win in the postseason with bullpen. That's where you win. You're not going to slug your way to a World Series title. And the thing about the Padres is they are 7th in Major League Baseball in runs, but more importantly, they're 4th in the major leagues in the National League. Unfortunately, 2 of the 3 teams ahead of them are in their division, with Arizona and LA. But Arizona is a very solid team. They're going to have problems, I think, in the 9th inning with their closer. They do not have a shutdown closer. LA has got a lot of injuries to their starting rotation. I don't know if their pitching is enough. Obviously, they have the big name guys, but San Diego, when you look at Jason Adam, Jeremiah Estrada, Tanner Scott, and Robert Suarez, I can't think of a group of better relievers anywhere in baseball. And, I was watching the game last night, and everybody's saying Cleveland has the best bullpen in baseball. They're looking at, the stats, like right now, maybe they're looking at the stats. They're not looking at the additions that the Padres have made. When you add a Jason Adam and you add a Tanner Scott to an already okay strong bullpen, now you're talking about the best bullpen in baseball for me. As I said, I was bragging on them. I think their bullpen has got a chance to carry them to a championship. What happens yesterday? They gave up a grand slam. Robert Suarez gives up what I thought was a fly ball to left field in the San Diego stadium that I used to know. That's an out, but, they keep moving these stands in further and further. The ball is pretty lively now. So what I thought was a little fly ball to left field to end the game turns into a game-winning grand slam for the Tigers. But to illustrate my point, that is the first lead that the bullpen has blown since June 2nd. Wow. So that's 3 months. I mean, that's an incredible stat. All of June, July, all of August, they did not blow a lead late in the game. So that'll tell you the quality of the bullpen they have. So I think San Diego has if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would put my money on San Diego to win the whole thing, because they can score runs. Their infield defense is above average. Their outfield defense, I think, is above average. Their starting rotation is good enough. They have two of their top 3 starters have thrown no hitters. Dylan Cease this year and Joe Musgrove a couple years ago. Then you add in Yu Darvish, Martin Perez, Michael King. They're okay. if you get into a short series with them, the bullpen is going to be the determining factor. So I think the San Diego Padres have as good a chance as anybody in the upper echelon of baseball to win the whole thing.
And speaking of pitching, Ed, Whit Merrifield made some comments this week that made a lot of noise about pitchers throwing at or near batters' heads. And so you're a former MLB pitcher. Want to get your perspective, your take on his comments.
Well, I know he's part of the rules committee, and I was talking to my buddy Bob Nightingale, and he said, Whit Merrifield is said he's going to propose, rules to outlaw throwing fastballs at people's heads. But, it's hard to legislate unintentional behavior out of the game. The guys are not trying to throw up there and hit people in the head. They're just wild as hell. If you get out there with no history of command and your reward system does not reward command, they reward velocity, you're going to have guys out there. It's like the state fair, trying to win a Cupid doll. They're just out there throwing as hard as they can, and they don't care where it's going. It's more like a long drive contest than it is to a tour event. I mean, it's just guys just trying to throw the ball as hard as they can. They don't have the command to pitch in. So if they miss by 1.5 feet, it goes from, on the inside corner at the belt to the head. So, I mean, it's hard to legislate that kind of behavior out of the game because they're not meaning to do it. And I understand exactly where he's coming from. Obviously, he was pissed off and probably thought about what could have happened. But I just don't see how you're going to legislate that out of the game. But, command and control has to be as big a part as your repertoire is as lighting up that game. And they have to start rewarding people for doing that.
And I appreciate that take. And one question too, again, I think most of those are unintentional as well, if not all of them. But there is a thing in baseball where there are intentional throwing at batters intentionally. Was it back, especially when you pitched, you aimed, behind the ass and below the belt, or where, what was kind of the unwritten rule with that?
Yeah, well, the statute of limitations has run, I think, on this. But I threw at Keith Moreland intentionally when I started that riot in Wrigley Field in August of 1984. We were getting our brains beat out. We're a young team. They're a veteran team. We could not beat them in Wrigley Field. And I just had enough. So I just throw the ball directly behind a guy at waist high, and he's going to turn, and you're going to hit him in the ass. And, Keith charged the mound. He knew I wasn't trying to hurt him. We went down the pile and we got up, and he went to first base and I faced the next hitter. That was like kind of the unwritten rule. I never intentionally threw a ball, up near the head, hoping to throw a ball maybe an inch from a guy's nose. I never did that. If I was going to throw a pitch 1 inch from his breastbone or 1 inch from his belt buckle to try to move him off the plate and then go outside with the next pitch. But I never intentionally threw a ball up head high. It doesn't do any good, really. The old saying is make guys move their feet, and you got a better chance of making them move their feet if the ball's down waist high than if you're throwing up at the head area. And all you're going to do is get one of your teammates hurt. And another thing, guys get a little braver when there's a DH too. When I pitched in the National League all those years, I remember pitching against Nolan Ryan in New York. And I kind of undressed Jose Cruz Sr. because I couldn't get him out. And then I went in after the inning, and I'm thinking, I look out at the mound, and Nolan Ryan's looking in our dugout, and I went, oh, God, what have I done, I mean, it makes you think twice if you have to go up there and hit. So, but I don't think they're intentional, but it doesn't hurt any less. It doesn't mitigate the injuries that could happen by hitting people in the head. The old saying in my day was, you accidentally hit our best player, I'm going to accidentally hit your best player, and it kept people honest. But, I don't know how you can legislate lack of command out of the game.
Yeah, and moving on to as well, talking about the end of the season, everybody's waiting just to see Ohtani and Judge get their MVP award. Are those two going to get it? Is it guaranteed, or do you have another take on it?
Well, I think Aaron Judge is a guarantee in the National American League. I mean, this guy is Joe DiMaggio reincarnated. I mean, not only his play on the field. He's on the field every day, but his leadership off the field. I mean, this guy is like the second coming of Derek Jeter. He leads by example. You don't see him saying stupid things in the media that's going to attract attention, negative attention to what they're trying to accomplish. This guy's a once-in-a-generation player. And I think a lot of things going in his favor are the fact that he's a home run hitter. And, he's already got the American League record for home runs. It's not like this is happening for the first time. And he's playing in New York. Is there a bias in New York? Absolutely, there's a bias in New York. I'm not going to say that there isn't. There is. But I'll tell you what, you got to talk about Bobby Witt Jr. and what he's done this year. This kid is phenomenal. If you dive into his numbers a little bit, I mean, this kid is hitting – right now, Bobby Witt Jr. is hitting 339. You don't see guys hitting 339 anymore because everybody's swinging straight up. And I saw him hit a home run about 3 weeks ago on a highlight, and it was a high fastball, and it was letter high, and he kept his bat flat, level through the strike zone, way up in the strike. It might have been a ball. It was at the top of the strike zone at best, and he kept his bat level through the strike zone, made solid contact, hit the ball out of the park. If you're worried about launch angle, what we used to call uppercuts when we were kids, if you cannot hit that pitch if you have an uppercut or launch angle swing. So this guy's having a phenomenal year. 393 on base percentage, so he's got a great eye. He's going to get 200 hits. He's going to hit 40-plus doubles. He's already hit more than 10 triples. He's already got more. He's got 30-plus home runs. His OPS is over 1,000. So this guy is, he's going to drive in 100 runs and still 30 bases. I mean, you couldn't put together a better year. Unfortunately, he's in the Albert Pujols slump right now because Albert had to, deal with Barry Bonds every year. So it's almost impossible when the American League MVP now if Aaron Judge is going out there doing what he's doing in the bright lights. But in the National League, there's a lot of discussion about, Ohtani does not go on the field. Every game he's played this year is DH. He's a half a player. And I remember, David Ortiz had a great, great year one year and finished second in the MVP. I think he was complaining about it a little bit. And I think Mookie Betts said, hey, if you steal 50 bases, you'll win the MVP, So, Ohtani right now is, he's got 44 home runs and 46 stolen bases. So 50-50 is going to be tough for him, but even get close to that is incredible. The guy looks like a movie star. He's like Judge. He's in a huge market, international market. I mean, these are international teams. The Miami Marlins probably aren't big in Czechoslovakia, but I bet you the Yankees are and the Dodgers are, or in Japan or in China. So these guys are on the two most visible markets, big, strong, good-looking, movie star-looking guys. It's hard to, is there a bias in L.A.? Sure there is a bias in L.A. like there is in New York. But you got to do a shout-out to Francisco Lindor, what he's done. He's going to score 100 runs. He's going to hit 40 doubles, 30 home runs. He'll drive in 90 runs. And plus, he's going to play an outstanding defense at the most important defensive position on the field. So is he going to win the MVP? No, he's not. Ohtani's going to win it. And another guy that doesn't get a lot of love is Marcell Ozuna down in Atlanta. This guy was on a pace to compete to win the Triple Crown. He's slowed down a little bit, but the year he's having is phenomenal, and nobody ever talks to him. I mean, the Atlanta Braves don't have that kind of exposure as you get in New York and L.A., but he certainly deserves a mention. So who's going to win the MVP? Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge. But those other guys deserve a mention.
And another person that you, I remember you were ranting and raving about during spring training was Matt Chapman, and you were excited about him, hopefully having a breakout year. What are your thoughts to this point of the season he's had?
Yeah, I tell you what, I thought that was one of the best signs of the offseason. I thought this guy was going to be an MVP. I thought he was going to, be in one of the top 5 players in baseball. In the last 3 weeks or so, I'm telling the people inside baseball that I know, hey, guys, I know you're going to throw at my face, Matt Chapman. He's hitting 247 with 20-something home runs. He's still a platinum defender. And yesterday, excuse me, he goes out and signs a 6-year, $151 million extension. So I guess he was having a better year than I thought he was. But he's a very, very good player. I think he's got bigger things coming. He's moving into the prime of his career. I can see this guy getting a lot closer to 300 than 247, getting a lot closer to 40 home runs than 25. But he's a great player. But it took me by surprise, those numbers. But it just goes to show you what a tough position that is to fill. When I was with the Chicago Cubs as GM, I heard this so many times. Boy, this is the 42nd third baseman since Ron Santo. And I'm like, well, go look at the other teams and tell me who's got a lockdown third baseman. There aren't many teams that do. Very tough position. You've got to have a strong chest, a strong arm. The hardest thing, I asked Ron Santo, what's the hardest thing about playing that position? He says you stand there for 3 innings and nothing happens and somebody hits a screaming Mimi, right at your lower half, and you have to react. So you got to be on your toes all the time. There's not a flow of activity over there. It's a tough position to play. And, to go out there and play platinum level defense, for you guys and gals that don't know what that is, they give out a gold glove to everybody in each league that's the best at their position, but they give out a platinum to the best defensive player in each league. And I think it was Matt Chapman and Tatis in San Diego was the other winner. So, obviously it's the value of the defense and the position goes on top of those offensive numbers for Matt Chapman.
Ed, once again, great show. Appreciate all your insight. Wrapping up here, I know we mentioned it previously, but I have to mention it again because I'm so excited to see everyone. But we're almost a month away from you and a lot of your 86 teammates being here in New Jersey, where I'm at, Woodbridge Brewing Company, for a 2-day reunion, signing, all that. So looking forward to seeing you. Hope you're as excited as I am to see everybody.
Well, I'm excited too. And Keith Hernandez is coming too, which he hasn't been to the last few for whatever reason, but he's coming. And, I just spent some time with him here in Arizona when the Mets came in. Great player, great teammate, great friend. So, if you want to see Keith Hernandez, along with all the other guys, Strawberry Gooden, Wally Backman, the whole crew, come on out in October. So I'm looking forward to it also, Tyler. And thanks for mentioning that.
Absolutely. Ed, appreciate it as always. Again, you can follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and all podcast platforms. Give us a follow, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Once again, Surfing Baseball with Ed Lynch.